Hey everyone, it's Derek from the Mock Family Resource Center in Fitchburg. Hope everyone's doing well, you're staying safe and healthy. Last video I made showed you guys how to put line on a spinning reel. The spinning reel, like I said in the last video, is a pretty universal setup for fishermen. Beginners usually use like a push button. I can show you how to put line on one of those in another video. I can also show you how to fish with one of those. But for today we're focusing on the spinning reel. You can really set it up for any kind of fishing. I have spinning reels set up for panfish, trout, and bass, so it's pretty versatile. Panfish are what we're going to focus on today. It's a pretty easy setup. It's the first setup everyone learns how to do on a fishing pole, because panfish are so much fun to catch and they're so easy to catch. There's usually lots of them in ponds and lakes. Those are your sunfish like pumpkin seeds and bluegills. There are also white perch, yellow perch, black, golden crappie, just to name a few that we have around here. You might be able to hook up onto catfish with this setup as well. Just depends on where you're fishing, but for the most part we're going to focus on panfish. So I'll show you how to set the rod up, and in another video I'll show you how to actually use it and catch some fish. Alright, so what you're going to need today to set this up: obviously your spinning reel and rod, some hooks, some split shot weights, and a bobber. Pretty simple. Alright, so these are hooks that we're going to be using. You can either use a shank or a bait holder. These are two different sizes. The bait holder is a size 4, the shank is a size 8. The higher the number, the smaller the hook. And as you can see with the bait holder, it has these barbs on it that helps hold your bait on, and it also helps keep the fish on when you hook it. These bigger ones, like size 4, size 2, you're going to use those if you're using like shiners for live bait, because the shiners will come off of a smaller hook. There's not as much space to put a shiner on a smaller hook. These smaller hooks you're going to want to use for like worms, grubs, sometimes spikes or maggots. We call them spikes. Those will fit on those smaller hooks real nice. So these are what we call split shot. They're just small little weights that you clamp onto your line. You can move them with your finger. They're pretty light. You use pliers to clamp them on real tight, or else they'll move on your line. But you can open and close them with your finger. These just help you weighing down your line a little bit, helps you cast, and it helps the worm sink a little bit so it doesn't float on top of the water when you're using a worm or something, you know, that's light, that'll tend to float. It's also handy to have either a pair of pliers, or these are forceps. These we mostly use to take the hook out of the fish, but they come in handy with the split shot to open and close them. And these are line cutters. You can use scissors. Most people will carry, like I said, a nail clippers. Those work well too. This is just to cut your line. So there's lots of different kinds of bobbers out there. Some are easier to use than others. The kinds that I like to use for panfish are these. You can pick them up anywhere. Walmart usually has them. They're pretty cheap. You can get a whole bag of them for probably like $1 or $2. They come in different sizes, so these ones are different sizes, and you got this little tiny guy. Just depends what your preference is for the size, but these come in different colors too. Usually they're white on the top, red on the bottom. I like these orange and yellow ones because you can see them a little bit better. There's also these types of bobbers. They're made out of foam. This one has a weight. It's just called a weighted bobber. it just helps it float upright a little bit better, but it also helps casting. It'll cast it out there a little bit further. This is the same thing, just without a weight. They clamp onto your line and they help show you when a fish bites the line. This is another type of bobber. It's got a rattle in it. I don't know if you can see the light, but it also lights up. These are good for night fishing, obviously. They're nice and heavy. The rattle attracts the fish, and the light lets you see the fish. They come in yellow as well, and they come with batteries. So I like using these. Sometimes if you're using light line, you got to be really careful, because when you cast, they're heavy, so they can snap your line. But as long as you're gentle with them, these work out pretty good. Alright, so what you're going to want to do now is just pull some line out. Alright, so you're going to want to pull about 5 or 6 feet of line off of your reel. And now you're going to want to put it through all the eyelets and go all the way up your rod. The longer the fishing rod is, the more eyelets you're going to have on there. This one's pretty short, so just run them straight up there. Pull it through. Alright. Now you want to make sure that your line comes under the bail, like that. Alright. Alright, so now take your hook. I got the little shank hook. Take your line, put it through the eye of the hook. Should be on there like that. The way I like to tie my lines is I'll bend the line around my fingers like this, and then I wrap it around itself 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So now I have a loop around my finger. Bring the line back through that loop, grab the line, grab the hook, pull it tight. There you go. And then you take your cutters. Oh, these are kind of dull. I think I need some new ones. You cut that piece off. There you go. Now you're going to want to put some split shot on your line. So I usually go about 6 to 8 inches up. Make sure it's right in the middle. If it's down too far, it's not going to clamp on and it's going to wiggle around, and you don't want it sliding up and down. So take your fingers, pinch it together, and take your pliers or your forceps, cramp it on there nice and tight. I like to put 2 on. You don't necessarily have to. That's just my preference, is 2. I've always done it that way since I was a kid. Clamp it on there, take your pliers, nice and tight. Alright, they're not going anywhere. There you go. Alright, so first I'll show you how to put this type of bobber on, just your regular circle bobber. I like to leave about 1.5 feet. It depends how deep the water is, but usually 1.5 feet to 2 feet is usually enough. So this button on the top right here, push it down, and the hook sticks out of the bottom. You want to make sure that this hook is on the bottom. So you just get it out, put your line right in there. I'll show you that again. So you pop that hook out, put your line in that hook, then just let go of that button. This next part's a little trickier. Make sure your thumb is right here on that hook on the bottom, and then you pull down that top button. So now there's another hook sticking out. I like to wrap it around once, because sometimes the bobber will slip up and down if you don't do it. So I wrap it around once, close it. Now you're all set. This type of bobber works pretty much the same. This part pushes down. When you push it down, that hook sticks up. So you want to push it down, loop the line through, make sure it clicks into place. Then same thing, you want to have your thumb on the bottom here, push down on that top button so the hook sticks out, wrap it around once, and close it. Now you're all set. This bobber is a little bit easier to set up, but there are two different ways you can set it up. So there's these two lines up here. That's for like a slip type bobber. So if you put your line directly through and across these two, the bobber will slide up and down your line. That's not what I'm looking for. There's a little hole at the bottom, a little square hole. That's where you want both of your pieces of line coming out of. So again, you just pull this down, it'll pop out like that, loop your line around it, and like I said, make sure both ends are coming out right there, and then click it into place. Now you're ready to go. Alright, so you're all set up and ready to fish. There's a few different things you can use as far as bait when it comes to panfish. They love worms. These are red worms. You can also get night crawlers, any type of worm really. Also, we use these sometimes. They look like a small minnow. We use these a lot ice fishing, but if they're hungry enough, sometimes they'll come after these. They don't always work. And then there's these little maggots. They're fake maggots. You can buy real ones. Again, we usually use these ice fishing, but they'll work sometimes. See, they're just little. They come in a liquid that stinks to attract the fish. But so those are the different kinds of baits you can use. You can use real shiners, like I said before, on your bigger bait holder hooks. But sometimes the smaller panfish won't go after those unless they're small enough. Yellow perch tend to like them, but you can also use this bobber and hook setup to fish for bass with a big enough hook and some live shiners. So maybe in a future video I can show you how to do that too. But hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully it'll get you started fishing and you'll start having some fun. The transition right now from summer to fall, fish are getting a little bit more active. It's probably pre-spawn by now, which means they've already laid their eggs and everything. So they're looking for food and they're looking to fatten up for the winter when they become a little bit more dormant. So it's a good time to go out and hit the water and try to catch something. Like I said, I'll do another video pretty soon on how to actually use the setup that I just made. So look forward to that. In the meantime, like, share, subscribe this channel, these videos, and if you have any comments, questions, or anything you want to see in the future, put it in the comments. Until then, be safe, be well, and be good to one another. Thank you.